Hi, all. Welcome back to another episode of Dispatches on Parenting Across Cultures. I'm really excited today. I have my good friend Tanto, Kris Paronto, who I've known for quite a long time now, and I'm sure
Yeah.
many of you are familiar. So I'm very excited to kind of catch up and see how life is treating you with everything
Yeah.
else. First,
I'm surprised you want me to know how not to parent. Yeah, you bring me on. That's it's like, really, you want me to talk about parenting? Because I am the worst. I am not the worst. I'm just always learning, and I had to learn late in the game, but it's better late than never. But everything's good. We're just actually I was just bitching to you about honeydews today. So there you go. I'm the perfect parent husband, right? But yeah, thank you for
uh,
having me, Holly. No, and your friendship means a lot. You're right. You know how much respect I have for you, and when I say you are probably the best combat correspondent ever that I've not just I've
uh,
ever met, but you really are, and so a lot of respect for you. So thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited to dive in. So tell us the ages of your kids now.
Yeah, 9-year old. My son just turned 20. So he's 20 and he's off in college, but love him. He's always home on the weekends. He's local here in Kansas. So and then my daughter is she just turned 16 and got her driver's license and she just went on her first date last
Oh
weekend,
my
which
goodness.
yeah, that was that we could talk about that because that was an experience for
Yes.
me on
Okay.
itself, but those are my kids
So we've got 20 and 16
and 9.
and 9.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just go straight into the date thing. Let's just go there. So
All right. So,
tell me about the guy. Tell me about how she told you. Tell me just, yeah, what was
you
that like
know,
for you?
well, mom knows how to handle the daughter better than me. It really is a father and my daughter's name. I can't give your name or I'll be in trouble, even though it's out there. I'm not
Of
allowed per
course, of course.
my wife's that, but my daughter's probably the most like me. So, which is why we butt heads more than I do than the boys, because she's outspoken. She doesn't like authority. She disrespects authority. I mean, she's the splitting image of her dad, even though she won't admit it and I won't admit it. It's the truth. But so my wife knows how to really handle it. So my wife is the one that came up and said, "Hey, Adeline's going on a date with this boy Sam, and first I'm like that dog that senses something wrong, my hair on the back, or the cat, like, what is it? What?" and she goes, "I got it." That's my wife. That's how I got it. I got it. I go, "Do you know this?" She goes, "Yes, I coach." My wife coaches at the high school there, and she goes, "Yeah, I coached him in track. His name is Sam. He's a good kid." And it just so happened that I was teaching a firearms course that weekend, this last weekend. So I timed it, and I'm gonna lie, just straight Midwest, Ranger mentality. So I timed it just perfect. So when I got home, he was picking her up, and I was offloading all my weapons at that time. So I got it, and I just got taught a carbine course, and so I got out, and he was a perfect gentleman, which I expected him to be. He really was, but he did actually come up to me with Adeline. So my daughter's there, and he says, "Sir," he goes, "My name's Sam. I'd like to meet you," and I'm just purposely taking out one of my rifles that I was teaching with, and I remember, and I'm taking it out of my side by side, and he goes, I go, "So this is my daughter, right?" He goes, "Yes." I go, "I think the world of her." I said, "Are you paying for dinner?" "Yes, I am, sir." And he kept saying, "Sir." I know that was my daughter that told him to do that. She's guiding him. I go, "So are you going to open the door for us?" "Yes, sir. We're going to do that." I said, "All right." I go, "If anything happens to her, I'm coming after." I did it just like I wanted to as the first dad on the date. "I'm coming after you. If anything happens to her, you better take care of her. What time are you bringing her home?" "I'll have her home at 8:30, sir." "Okay." I looked at Adeline. I go, "You okay?" And she smiled because as much as she may say she hates it, she loved it. I can tell just by her smile, she's loving this whole moment. And I'm loving it too because it really is something that I thought was we were when the first that what was going to happen. This is how it's going to go. This is exactly how I'm scripting. Kind of like when you get married and the woman that wants you to get down on the knee, and even though that's not my wife, but the perfect scenario. It was perfect because I actually had my weapon. I was either going to be cleaning my guns, just like a stereotypical alpha male guy, which wasn't it, but I had just getting them out of my side by side. I'm telling the boy, hey, you're protecting my daughter. And I did say that. I said, you are protecting her now. You have her. You better take care of her, and you better make sure she gets home safe. And he actually said, he goes, I'll have her home at 8:30. And he kept saying, sir. And I even watched him walk over to his car, open the door for her. She got in, and I walked inside. But as soon as I walked inside, I go, you know what's going on? She goes, I got it. My wife's, she goes, I got it. Will you relax? You relax, and
No.
it was awesome, and throughout the next 3 hours, because she picked her up at 5:30. I go, you hear from Adeline every hour. You hear from Adeline? She goes, will you relax? She's fine. She's safe. All right. But did you hear from Adeline? And she goes, yes. And he took her to eat at a Mexican restaurant here in town, Charo's. And then they drove to Pittsburgh, which is down the road, Pittsburgh, Kansas, and got her Starbucks there because that's the nearest Starbucks. And yeah, it was to be honest, it was perfect. It was exactly how as a father I wanted to be with my daughter meeting the guy she was going to go out with the first time. It was, and so yeah, I don't have a lot of those perfect moments because you know me, I've been gone, I've deployed so much and I was gone so much that having that perfect moment really work out how I always planned it was going to be was awesome. And you can see by the smile, it made me happy, even though was I nervous? Yeah, extremely nervous. I was a young high school kid, just not everybody. My wife even said this. She goes, not everybody was a dirtbag like you growing up in high school. There are some good boys. It's like, yeah, you're right. So, but it was awesome. She got home. It was a wonderful date. The guy, Sam, he's a good kid. And he's an athlete. He plays sports he's plays sports here at the local high school. And, it all worked out great. And but to say that I'm not apprehensive now, because now this has opened a new door. And I don't know how your father was with you, Holly, but as a father, it's like, oh my gosh. Every time she goes out on a date, I'm gonna worry now. And she just got a driver's license too. So now this whole
Yeah.
world is opening up. And as a dad, I'm just, oh my gosh, I'm stressed. I ain't gonna lie. I am extremely stressed out about it. But
I
it
bet
was wonderful.
the driver's license thing, thinking about that terrifies me.
Oh
Thinking
my
about,
gosh.
yeah, my daughter ever driving, remembering what it was like when I first got my license and how you think you know everything, but you really know nothing, and how just terrifying it actually is to be in control of this vehicle.
Yeah.
Um, it is terrifying, but you got to let him, it's the
You
only
got
way to,
yeah, it
yeah.
is it's cutting that string loose, which is I cut one string loose this weekend and brought her home at 8:30 and actually brought her to the door and we have a wonderful guard dog, a Doberman, and the guard dog is she's all but yeah, as soon as they got her come to the door, the dog starts going crazy. So and it's great. I want that kind of dog when I'm gone. I want that Doberman guard dog. But yeah, Sam came in and it didn't phase him, and he was a perfect
Mm.
gentleman. And can I, one caveat, I did have a buddy of mine, Army buddy, that was here helping me with my course, and he says I'm going to go out to eat. I said, hey, there's this restaurant called Charles. Why don't you go check it out? And if yeah, just keep an eye on my dog. And he did. He
Oh,
sent me
it's
a pay.
terrible.
I know, terrible dad. I know. I said, just don't tell Tanya you're doing it because he's a friend of the family. So I said, just don't tell my wife know that you're. But he sent in a
No.
picture, and he goes, hey, you have nothing to worry about, buddy. He's a perfect gentleman. He paid for everything. I said, make sure he pays for everything. But I did as a father too. I was like, Adeline, do you need any money? If you need, just do you
Yeah.
need any cash before you go out? And yeah, it's one thing with my daughter because she's has the personality of like myself. I don't have to worry about her being strong and outspoken because it's in her genes. So, but it is hard. My son's first date. No, I'm not worried about a thing. Treat her like take care of her, do your thing. But there is, and it is a safety thing. It's my daughter. My son is a big kid. He's bigger than me, my 20-year-old. And so I'm not really worried about him being able to defend himself or anything. And maybe it's the alpha male, and maybe it is. Maybe it's the standard that male, female, the dynamic that I grew up with. But he also is a big kid that can take me down. And so I know he can handle it. But my daughter, my daughter's tough. My daughter's extremely strong,
Mm,
but it's different as a father. And now that I experienced both, I can honestly say, yeah, I was a lot more worried with her than when my oldest, when he first dated, because I was like, just be chivalrous, bud. That's all that, where my daughter, it's like safety more than
mm,
chivalry.
mm.
And but I'm glad it's over. It's done. Everything worked out well. And because of my wife and her confidence in Sam, that helps out too. So it really does. As a parent, it really is a team. Parents, it's a team effort, and it's also one parent can grab the other one and get them off the ledge, like my wife did with me. We're just like, we just relax. She's good, and that helps a ton. So it really is a team effort throughout, definitely.
It is, it is. Just to give you a little bit of backstory, so just so if people don't know who you are, so uh
Yeah.
Tanto, what year did you join the army?
1995. So I'm old, man. That was a
1995.
long time ago. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yep.
Joined the army, became an Army Ranger, then
Yep.
several deployments, and then also became a CIA contractor.
Yeah.
And then was very unfortunately in 2012 when the attack happened on the US military installations and consulate in Benghazi. You were involved in that and lost
Yeah.
several colleagues. And that was made into a movie. If you've seen Michael Bay's 13 Hours, also a book. Great movie for anyone that hasn't
Thank
seen
you.
it. Also a great book where a character very much captures you, I think, in
It did.
all the best possible ways. And but yeah, that's I mean, so you kind of went from this pretty anonymous role,
Yeah.
as a military personnel to suddenly being in the center of
Yeah.
a very political and huge media firestorm. And at that point, your kids were quite young.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, the youngest, I guess he wasn't even born
He
then.
wasn't even born yet.
Yeah,
Yep. Wasn't
God,
even
I
born.
can't, it's just been 11 years. It's hard to,
I know.
well, 12 years, 12 years. So, oh my gosh, it feels like 2 years ago. Um, so that, I mean, tell me about I guess how that impacted your family, sort of handling that
It
sudden
is.
ascent
No,
into the
it
spotlight.
did. It did. It definitely. Well, you and I, and we had a wonderful conversation. I mean, you're probably at that time, the last time, I don't know if you were with Fox or not, but I mean, you knew when I was having those really bad issues in 2017, and I think you were the
Mm.
last person that I spoke with that, whether you had just left Fox or you're just with them,
I
that I
was still
talked
there
to.
at the time,
You
but yeah,
said
I
so.
remember
So
we
yeah,
catching up with you. I believe there was a party in New York that you were in
yeah.
town for. I just remember they're rolling cigars.
There was
I just
it.
remember
They,
smoking cigars. But
that like
yeah.
the one person that I didn't really talk to many people in the mainstream at that mainstream meet because I didn't trust them. You're the one that I still did. And that was part of the issues. That was hard. That was because I didn't ever join the military wanting to people. I was, and the anonymity was the cool part of it. Being doing the secret stuff. So what was part of the draw, and that's what I wanted to do. And as a family, when you're doing that, and in a lot of years, 10 years of working overseas and leaving, and you know how that is.
Mm,
But having a when you're on your own, it's easy. You just that's just your job. But as a family, you have to juggle that. And my kids really didn't. My two oldest didn't get to know me till they were, my son was 16 when he finally really got to know his father. And that was hard on him. And my daughter, we didn't talk a whole bunch when I started to be home a little bit more. But the thing is when the movie came out, I was still gone. I was still
mm,
traveling. And I don't know if that was me and because hey, I needed to push the movie. I was rationalizing it that way. Hey, we need to market this. It was more of I was so used to being gone all the time that it was I'm uncomfortable when I'm home for too long. And I know you know that feeling where it's like, okay, I gotta go do something. I've been sitting here at home too long. And so it was not necessarily an adjustment when the movie came out, because the family was already used to me being gone. I'm home for a little bit, then I'm gone. I'm home for a little bit, then I'm gone. Right around 2017, when it started to take an emotional toll on me, and my wife and I had actually divorced the year prior because of the lack of anonymity. when your face is out there too much, people are hitting you up too much. I was drinking a whole bunch. And I'll be quite honest with you. And this is out there. I've already put that I was unfaithful, and that's will destroy a relationship like that. I mean, and which it should at least
Mm.
you need to take some step back and realize, and me realizing how big of a dirtbag I was being. But the family part, I still was really not a father because I was still not gone. I was still gone all the time. So it's tough. It is tough. It's tough on families when you're gone, and it's tough on a relationship when you're always gone because the family doesn't come first. The job comes first. Your ego
Mm.
comes first, and that's a big thing. And a lot of guys, when I say guys, men and women that do go overseas, that do continue to leave home, they can say it's their job, but a lot of it's the ego. It's feeding. You're feeding your ego, and my ego got really big, especially when I didn't have the anonymity anymore. And a movie came out, and a wonderful actor, that did an outstanding job. Pablo, we're still friends. Great guy. When it does that well, um, then you have to deal with that, and the family suffers. At least in my case, because I didn't know how to handle it. Because I didn't ever want to do that. I didn't wasn't my thing. So when the followers and the accolades and the hey, you're that guy, and getting stopped in the airport or going doing speaking events, and you 300 people come and want to start books for it gasses your head up. It really does.
Mm.
And you even get more ostracized. I don't say ostracized, but you move farther away from your family. So really, in 2017 is when I got to stop doing this. I got to get my life right. I got to get because my
Mm.
family is suffering. I'm still not seeing my kids. I'm not deploying anymore, and I'm still gone. I have a new
Mm.
boy. I have a third chance to be a father, and I'm blowing it with my youngest. Is how I was thinking of it. And 2017, that was the last time you and I. I mean, we talked before that, but what I talked about the last time with you was that's where I finally just pushed everything away, the social media, stopped doing the media, the big media, stopped
Mm.
doing the everything where my face was out there, and put
Yeah.
family first. And that's when things started to really turn around positively.
Mm.
But up until then, it really didn't change much from Benghazi on because I was still gone all the time. And that
Mm.
was nobody's fault but my own. I'm not going to blame
Mm.
that on anybody but myself.
Do you think a lot of men in the military or women sort of fall into that trap
Yeah.
of feeling like you still have to deploy or finding reasons
Yeah.
to um, go away? I mean, in your case, it was amplified because of the public exposure. But even without that, do you think you still would have found? Because I remember
Yeah.
talking to you, I think it was 2016 or something in LA, and you still wanted, I was talking about a trip I was doing, and you still wanted to go away. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I would go back and do the same thing. So I don't think that's really safe for you to go to Libya right now. But I remember you still very much
Yeah.
had that. I just want to go and be a
Yeah.
contractor again. Um, do you feel like you've come sort of full circle with that, where things are content
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, yeah, and the reason being is because it did come full circle. I don't want to call it a deployment because when I go to do anti-kidnapping, I did that in between in El Salvador and South America and Colombia. It is a work deployment, but to me, my Spanish comes back. I got there's TGI Fridays and Chili's and these. I don't feel like I'm really deploying, but I did go in 2017 to where did I head off to? It was Costa Rica. There was an American that was kidnapped, and four of us, and that was love being a contractor because I could do a lot of those little things in between GRS trips. I could, and they said, okay, we need you down here as an American. We got to go find him. We need the family protected. We're going to try to find him. And I remember being down there. I'd left again, so I was not just doing the movie stuff, not just doing the book signings, and here I am now again deploying. And this was after I spoke with you. I'm like, so I did it, and it felt good for the first 2 days. It did. I was like, man, I feel like myself again. It was October, right before Halloween, and October 31st came, and here I am in another country. And my wife Tanya, she sent me pictures of my little guy, of my 9-year-old, who at that time was 3, going trick or treating. And here I am again. I'm sitting there looking at it, going, I am missing another holiday. And like what, and it was almost like a coming to Jesus. It was, what the hell am I still doing this? And that was where I finished it. I just had a couple weeks left. I finished it. I came home and I'm done. So I think I needed, after talking, I needed to see if I could get, if it was out of my system or not. I needed to see if I really, if that was what I was missing. And the emptiness wasn't the deployments. The emptiness that I didn't have was me actually giving 100% at home. That was what I needed. But it took me to leave again and miss another holiday and have pictures being sent to me of the family going trick or treating or like having fun, Christmas presents or, Thanksgiving. It took that for me to sit there by myself in my room again, going, what the hell? Why am I still doing this? So yeah, I do think a lot of not just military, but contractors especially as well, that they do think they feel the need. That's going to fill the hole, but it doesn't. It doesn't ever fill the hole. There's something else that it makes them come full circle, that fills it up to the top, and makes them 100%. And I can't always tell you what that is, but the continual deployment, no, that doesn't fill that hole. It feeds the ego. Definitely does feel the ego. You still feel, you feel cool again, I guess, for a brief amount of time, but it's something else. And it takes a lot of guts. It does. Because I was scared to let that part of the life go and say, we're done. That's done. Close that chapter, fully close it, and figure out what else is my next chapter supposed to be, and moving on to that. And it doesn't have to be traveling and being away from home, because honestly, you're never really filling up that cup all the way. You're filling it up part of the way, and then you're still got that part empty. So you have to go keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. But every time you go overseas or you do a deployment, you're emptying that cup back out. Then you're filling it back up halfway again. So it's
Mm.
like, it's a never ending battle. You're in a vicious circle. Um, but I can speak on it because I got my fill. I did 20 years. I got 10 years overseas. I did see some combat. Some guys saw more, some guys saw less. I did see death. I did see life. So mine may be a little bit different than some, because I got to see everything that I wanted to see when I signed on the dotted line in 1995. Everything that I thought I was going to do, I did. But that was why it was like, why am I still trying to do this when now I need to be a father? I need to be home. I need to be with my kids. I need to be going trick or treating. And when I started just to do that, actually the cup filled up. I'm good. I mean, it's good. Not that I don't have my
It
bad
is.
days and I don't miss it. We all will. We saw things that we missed, but it's like, no, like, I want to go pick up my son from school because I didn't get to do that for 18 years. So but it
Mm.
takes a strong person to be able to step back and put your ego aside for a little bit and
It is. It's
start.
something, yeah, it's something I'm grappling with a lot, and I'm still traveling. It's obviously not the same degree that I used to, but it
Sure.
is. And I have to remind myself that so much of it is ego driven. And I love my work. It's my vocation, but it's not my priority. It's not the greatest thing I'll ever do.
Well, it's
My
how we
child
it's how
is the
we how we
greatest thing.
defined
Yeah.
ourselves for so many years. It's how we define ourselves. That's why well, now we need to define ourselves with something else that is more. It's bigger than us. And the family is bigger than us. It's not just
Yeah.
individual. No, but you're spot on. You're going through what I did in 2000. It sounds like to me what I did in
Yeah.
2017. Um, but I can't even imagine doing it as a father. The responsibilities are there, but just watching how my wife handles the kids and how she had to deal with it when I was gone. And you're traveling, and the mother. It's got to be even a
Yeah.
hundred times even more difficult, because
Yeah.
it is different, being a mother
and
and having
and
children.
children, toddlers, they really do need their mother for
Yeah,
I
yeah,
believe, for those first 3 years. Of course they need their father, but the mother is sort of the comfort
I
pillow.
agree.
And I
Yeah,
recognize that, yes, I can do short trips, they'll never be long. But and Raven is well taken care of when I'm not here. But I also recognize I need to be here with her as much as I can. She's with me during the day, trying to navigate work from home in there. And I keep reminding myself that when have these urges or wish I was in a different place, that my priorities have shifted into something that's yeah, much more important than even the workout in the world. And I think that is
Yes.
just critical to remember. And actually realized how far I'd come mentally. I saw a post on an Instagram story where somebody was sort of, I guess, bragging about a colleague who was maybe, 20 or 30 something days postpartum, very similar age to Raven, and was back working in the sort of Israel Gaza conflict when that ignited last October. And my first instinct to it was, oh my gosh. Whereas I think a year ago, I would have been insanely like, oh,
You,
that's been me. Like, I should have been there too. Why wasn't I not there on
yeah.
October 6th, even though I was, less than 2 weeks postpartum? But I think my response to it was like, oh, and I thought I took a step back and was like, you know what? You've actually come a really long way. That I didn't want to be that person because
Yeah.
at 30 days postpartum, I wanted to be with my daughter and I didn't want to be on the other side of the world. I didn't want to be working 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Um, and it's okay not to be there. I mean, wars will
Wait.
continue, wars will go on forever.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, there's very little that we can do to stop them, um, other than bring awareness to things, in my case as a journalist. But at the end of the day, the work that we do in raising humans to be the best possible version of themselves, I mean, it's just the greatest thing that we
It
can ever do.
is. We have to pass the torch eventually. Eventually, Jan. One thing, the important lesson I learned at Ranger Battalion, and this is from the sergeants that were when I was a young buck, it's like, hey, it doesn't matter if you're here or not. The wheel's going to keep turning. The world's going to keep spinning. Things are going to keep moving, whether you're here or not. Do the best with what you can at the time you have. And I know it sounds cliche, but that's the truth. Because once you're not here, you've done other things. You're going to pass the torch to the next person. And that's how I saw work was I've done everything I need to do. There's people that need to work now, young guys like myself that were full fire breathers. I'm not that fire breather anymore. They've got it. Let them have it. We can't keep saving the world every day. Well, I mean, we just can't, at least out there. What we can do is save the world within our own households and in like making that person the best, the children, the best people they could be. And my I was failing my older kids on that because I wasn't home. I wasn't being the best person. I was away from their mom. I wasn't being faithful. I mean, it's like, what kind of a scumbag dad am I? My kids are watching this dad that would rather be away than be home. And initially, in the early days when it was bigger, at least I thought, the global war on terror was something bigger, that it was okay. I could rationalize it. I'm going to Iraq in 05, 04 and 05, or going to Afghanistan and fighting the Taliban or pushing them out, or going to, that I could rationalize. But later in the career, it was like, no, now it's just for me. We're not doing anything to protect American assets. Now we're just out there implementing some form of foreign policy. And why do I need to be here? It's because I enjoy it so much. I need to be here because this is my ego that needs to feel cool. But I need to be at home because my kids are seeing a deadbeat father not be responsible, and they're going to be raised like they're going to learn. They're going to be like that, especially my sons. And I don't want my sons. My daughter's going to hate. She's going to hate men because of her father's just being a scumbag. And it did take, again, it did take, and this might happen to you too. You may have to go do a trip and be there and be like, okay, no, it's out of my system. What the hell am I doing? And then end it. And it did take that for me. It did take that trip for me to be gone again and just say, no, I'm in 2017. No, I'm done. I'm over. It's over. I don't need this crap anymore. I want to be home. I want to go trick or treating. I don't want to be out here carrying a gun anymore. And but the Lord works in mysterious ways. That's just how it needed to be for me. And
Mm.
but you are so spot on. Our kids need us around, and I almost lost my oldest son as far as our relationship because when he was 16, he actually asked me at an all. I remember where we were in an Olive Garden in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and my he was 16. My little guy, he was 4 at the time, and I would treat him little. I wasn't as hard nosed as I was with my six. I wasn't that mean dad that came back from deployments. I was never the great Santini, Robert Duvall. So don't think that. But I was meaner and more rough with my oldest. And we were sitting there, and my little 5 year old, he was acting up, playing those little things on Olive Garden. You can play those games, and he was losing. So of course he's getting mad. He's four. He's well, in the past, I would have jumped my daughter, my oldest, two oldest. I would have jumped their shit. I'd like knock that crap. Now I'm actually being patient with my 4 year old, and hey, you're all right. Dude, come on, relax now, buddy. You got this. It's just a game. And my 16 year old looked at me, and this was like it was like a knife through my heart. He goes, "Why are you so much nicer to him than you were to me when I was his age?" I was like, "What? You're First of all, it said my kids know what's going on. Doesn't matter how old they are. They're smarter than what we give them credit for when they're younger." But I had to take a step back. I'm like, you're right. I was. I How has my son? What does my son oldest perceive men to be? And it knocked me to my knees. And that's when my 16 at that time, he was 16. That's when we finally had to come and sit down for a year, 2, 3 years after, and give him so much love that I could, and be overly patient. I wasn't the pushover dad, but realized that when I wanted to get angry with him, take a step back, because that's what he sees. He sees an angry man, and it did. We did get it, and we got it finally when he was a senior in high school, where things finally started to come around. Because I went to one of his soccer games, and he played soccer in high school, and I remember watching him play his senior year. Very good athlete. He gets it from his mom, of course, but he's wearing number 13, and I looked at his mom. I looked at 10. I was like, is he wearing 13 because of Benghazi? She shook her head yes, and it just brought a tear to my eyes. Like, oh my gosh, it was like we got it. Me and my son, we closed that angry door, and he sees a father now, and not some ranger that comes back from deployments and is always angry, being a disciplinarian. And now he just can't get. I told him, son, that I don't care till you're 50. I'm gonna give you hugs and kisses till you're. So now always he just tolerates. He's like, Dad, but it was a good feeling to know that I didn't lose him, because I almost did, at least emotionally, lost him. And that's why it's so important for parents to put their families first. Careers are one thing, and we got to get our careers done. But when you get to that age, and I'm 53, come on, man. What's more important? The career? Well, we got to make money to pay the bills. Let's do that. But that's not the focus. The focus is on the children. And there are people that figure it out a lot sooner than me. It just took me a while to figure that out, and a lot of falling down to figure it out. But man, that was a great. When I saw that 13, and I did. I had to walk away because I started to cry. I was like, I'm gonna start to cry right now. Because it's like, oh my God, that's so cool. How cool is that? My son's wearing 13, and he wears it. And so, yeah, it's one of those where you have to make that conscious choice. And the people out there that want to continue to deploy, hey, if you're in your 30s and 40s, get it. I did the same thing. But once you hit that 50-year-old, and you're not doing it for something bigger, like you're not doing it for patriotism. You're not doing it for the person to the left and right of you anymore. You're doing it because part of it is because you feel cool doing it. Then it's time to reevaluate if this is what you need to keep doing, because somebody probably needs you at home. And it just took that long for me to figure it out. It really did.
Mm. And it's such a sacrifice in that we look at military personnel or veterans or other people that serve in different capacities abroad, and we see the sacrifice that may be combat or danger, but what we don't see is the sacrifice of the
Yeah.
family, and how many marriages end because
Yes.
one partner is deployed for very long periods of time and back to back, and just the burden that is then on the other spouse to raise the family. And it also is I can't imagine the challenge of growing up, without my father or mother sort of being around 99% of the time. So I I think that that sacrifice is a huge one, and it can be
It is.
very the transition out can also just be incredibly daunting experience, I think, for a lot of veterans, because if you go in very young, that's all you know, and then what's next?
Yeah,
It's
it
almost
is.
going into the real world again, where you've got to relearn things all over again as a 30 something year old or a 40
It,
something year old, and that's really daunting for many people.
it's humbling to be able to figure that out. Again, luckily for me, I kind of weaned out because of the movie and because of the book and being able to be a public speaker, a corporate motivational speaker. I was very lucky. My transition wasn't straight to a 9 to 5 job. It was, I'm still, again, the family's suffering because I'm still deploying all the time, but mentally, and again, I think it worked out the right way for me. Just jumping right into a 9 to 5 job right out of the gate, I think it would have took a huge emotional toll on myself, and I would have still been that angry person. Like
Mm.
doing what happened with me, where I was still leaving sometimes. Um, I, but I was able to control that amount I was leaving, like with the speaking and the book signings. I got to a point where, and it's hard to do because you want to make everybody happy. Maybe it's an ego thing too, but also most people that do what we do, going overseas, working with other cultures, whether it's to help them or fight against them, you're doing it because you feel like you're helping someone, you're helping that community, that culture. Um, I couldn't tell people no. So when I got corporate speaking events or book signings, or somebody said, "Hey, can you come talk to our group?" It was hard for me to say no, and I had to learn how to do that. But once I did, after about 2015, 16 ish, then I started to weed it down. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do 100 speaking events this year. I'm just going to do 50. Now I'm going to do 40. And oh, you know what? I'm going to get somebody else that can handle this for me. Yeah, I may have to pay them a little bit, but I'm going to let them be the bad guys and say no because I can't do it, realizing what my shortcomings were. So that was the blessing on the movie and the book after leaving the contracting world, is that I didn't go straight from one extreme to another extreme. I was able to kind of wean out of it until, like I said, 2017, where I'm sitting on a deployment going, why am I doing this again? It allowed me over that time frame to figure out, okay, this is what I want to do. I was very lucky to have a wife that was patient enough for me to do that, because that's where you run into the problems. The partners sometimes, and they don't have to be that patient. They don't have to wait for you. The
Mm.
kids don't have to wait on you. And I was very lucky that they did. That doesn't always happen. So it's one of those things where, again, it was a blessing that it worked out the way it did for me. Because if it would have went just to a straight extreme, I don't know if from just going right to a 9 to 5 sitting in a cubicle or doing something. I don't know if mentally I would be here talking to you today, because I
Mm.
don't think I would be able to handle it. And I don't think a lot of people that deploy or gone overseas a lot can do that. There has to be some moderate step down or just change. I won't say step down because it's not you're not doing anything that's not worth doing, but it's got to be a gradual change, and that doesn't happen very often. And I don't know how we would ever fix that, but it did help me. So if you're going to stop doing it, there has to be a gradual change into something else. And that may be trying multiple things and something not working, and that's not good for me. Let me try something else. But you have to have your savings saved. If you're going to do that, you have to have some money in the bank for the rainy days, because you may not have money coming in and you've got to pay the bills still, because you're still responsible for you're still responsible for your wife or your kids or whatnot. And again, it's one of those things where I was lucky to do that too. I saved a ton of money when I was working as a contractor, because my cost of living was nothing. And I don't need a Jaguar. I don't need to take trips to France. I just need maybe vacation in the States every once in a while. And I just need my truck. That's all so, I, unbeknownst to me, I planned out well for it. Granted, I didn't plan it that way, but it worked out that way. So, Yeah, it's hard, Holly. It really is. It's hard, and I almost didn't make it, and I think I did it the right way, and I almost still didn't make it. To be talking to you here today, or to be married with kids and have a wonderful family, and being a being a father again. It almost went sideways, and I think I still, and again, I think I did it the right way too. If that tells you how difficult it is just to be a soldier, be a contractor, be a combat correspondent that's always gone. It's hard. So if you choose that route for all you, I don't know if anybody younger, if any, just know that it takes a lot of work and a lot of luck for you to get to how old I am now, 50, 35, 50, 53, and still be together with family and kids.
Mm.
It's a lot of work, but it also is a lot of luck. It really is.
It is. And when I first started in this line of work, I remember a producer had said to me, I was in my early 20s at the time, and he was like, it's a young person's game. Like once you get to a certain point, you can't do it anymore. And I remember thinking, oh, my baby's great. Raven, you're okay. You're okay.
Oh, it's oh man.
She's being sweet. I remember thinking to myself, oh no, like, I'm gonna do this forever. What are you talking about? I'll find a
You
way.
think that when you're young, yeah, don't you? Yeah.
And now I'm in my late 30s and have one child and hopefully more, but I look at that and go, oh my gosh, he was right. It is a young person's game, even though plenty of
Yeah.
people are not too, there are plenty of people that are older still doing it. And as I said, I love what I do and will continue it, in the capacity that I think is best. But it's not going to be what it was in my 20s, and it is
No.
it is a young person's game. That is
It's
just the
it's
reality of the.
it's a sacrifice, sacrificing something. They may not tell you, and you don't need to tell me, but I know that if I was still deploying at my age, I would be sacrificing family. I'd be alone. I wouldn't have a family. I guarantee you. I just know. And the buddies that I have that are still deploying or that have chose to live in the Philippines or Costa Rica, and I have a lot of them, or Thailand. What are they missing? They got kids. They have kids. Are they close to their kids? No, they're not. And some of their kids also feel a lot of animosity towards their fathers now. And that also helped me realize it's time for me to be home. So,
Mm,
because I don't want that, but it's a choice. We make choices. Do we want that career that spans and we keep doing what we're doing till we're 60? Some people do, but they don't have a good family at the end or have a family at all. And, once we've done it and you've done it enough times, like in your case, you've sat with the Taliban enough times that you don't need to prove anything to anybody anymore. With myself, I've been shot at enough times that I don't need to prove that I can handle gunfire. I don't. And that again goes back to our ego. It's our ego. We did it. We got it. I'm good. It's enough. If I need to do it again for some reason, I know I can. But do I need to go out there and continue to prove it? No, I don't. And in my case too, God stepped in and said, okay, you know what? We're going to rip your quad up now. So you're going to have to get a complete reconstruction of your quad muscle and your tendon. Oh, and hey, we're going to have to get you a new hip. So I got a new hip 10 weeks ago because
oh
my hip was
wow,
destroyed. So
congrats.
sometimes if we're too stupid to stop it ourselves, the good Lord steps in and says, you know what? You're not listening to me. I'm going to handle this for you. And it made it a lot easier on me to accept because I'm breaking down. But I had that same old sergeant when I was a young 20-year-old that said, if you do this job long enough, you're just going to keep breaking down. You're going to have new hips, new shoulders, and yeah, whatever, Sergeant. Sure. Don't they? They always know better than us. People that have been there, but we don't want to listen. We're 20. But he was right. Like, yeah. But yeah, it's. I don't see it as a. I don't think see that as a negative. All these injuries that are coming about now meant that I did the job right. But it's also, if anything, if you want to look at the worst possible scenario, it gives me an excuse to be home. I have to be home now because I can't do what I used to do, and that's okay. I love it. I can get my brain can fully invest in being at home instead of being, man, I still want to put that ruck on and go. No, I don't want to do that anymore. That hurts. I'm done. I can be home. So
Mm. So
it's
how were
it's
you
wonderful.
able? Yeah, how were you able? So you and Tanya divorced. What year was that?
Yes.
It was 2016.
2016. Yep. Beginning 2016. Yep.
How did you have a moment when you were just like this, this
Yeah.
single life, this isn't working, and how did you
Yeah.
win her back?
That's lucky. Sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while, Holly. I just got lucky. No, I dated, a lot, and the dating at that time too, especially because when your name's out, you're attracting a certain kind of people, a certain, and then nothing against the. Hey, I was very vapid, very insecure, and I was too. No, I wasn't really attracting and people that want to be seen with other people,
Mm.
and and it was
Basically,
awful.
people that were like clubbering onto the fame that you had,
Yeah, yeah. I
that,
mean, yeah, and
yeah.
as me, I'm like, well, that's the kind of people I need to be dating. Somebody that's
Mm,
has a million followers on social media, that's always showing
mm.
their stuff off. That's the stereotype, and there's nothing. Again, there's nothing wrong. It's just there's that's not me,
It
and
wasn't healthy.
that
Yeah.
at all. And what comes along with that? Well, the drugs come along with that. The drinking, massive drinking, comes along with that. And I drank a lot before. Um, so it's hollow. I used to watch celebrities. I did when I was younger on TV, and you'll see that celebrity come on and say, "Yeah, my life was hollow," and then I got it. And I always say, "Yeah, whatever. Sure, whatever. You just want to get more attention on TV." It did. It was hollow. It didn't matter how much I filled, how many women I filled it with, how many drugs I filled it with, how much alcohol I filled it with. It was hollow. And you've heard that from old rock stars that have now moved on and become, fathers. And I used to never think anything of it. And I was like, I could never fill it up. I could never get enough to fill it up. And that's why I thought, well, maybe this the deployment I need. I need to fill it. That's what's missing. That's not filling that hole. That's why I went to Costa Rica to do the anti-kidnapping was, okay, I got to fill it with that. And then I realized, nope, that's not it either. I'm still empty. And it took me that trip to come home to be like, the filling has got to come from something outside that I've been pushing away forever. And that's the family. That's the
Mm.
love of my wife, the love of the kids. So really, I did have a suicidal moment at the end of 2017 before my
Mm.
wife and I got back together. So before we got back together. So it was right. It was before I did that last trip to Costa Rica. But I did have where we actually started to reconcile, and it was putting a bullet gun to my looking in the mirror and not liking what I was seeing. It really was. It was just what you might read in a book. Looking in the mirror after taking a shower and bawling my eyes out and doing the crying game in the shower where I'm in a fetal position by myself in my house alone, still living in Omaha. We're divorced, so I'm in an empty house. It's getting to be Christmas time, so really, and that Christmas time's hard on anyone. The emotions come out, good or bad. Um, and looking in the mirror and just going, man, I don't like what I see. And I did pray. I did. I got on my knees. I said, God, I can't do this anymore. And I remember I had the gun. I had a Glock. It was a Glock 19. And I remember I had it in my mouth and I put it down. And I actually, Tanya and the kids had gone on vacation to Disney. They were already there. They were staying at the Polynesian Village too, at one of the little ones that sits on the water. I remember it. I just remember it clear as day. And I just picked up the phone and I called them. I said, "Hey, can I come on vacation with you?" And there was no hesitation. She's like, "Yeah." And I bought a ticket. I was on a plane the next day and I flew
Mm.
out there and I met him and we started to reconcile right there. And it was wonderful. That vacation was the best vacation I've ever had. It was so I still remember the Polynesian village. I still remember going jogging with her because you can jog from there to the Grand Floridian. There's a jogging trail. She actually got me booked a massage for us. I could go do a massage, and all we did was go to the parks. We'd go work out, and then we'd go to dinner, around there with the kids, and it was wonderful. And it was Christmas time, so it was just wonderful. And then now we didn't just reconcile though, because I didn't think, neither of us thought we just do it there. We started to date again. So for the next
Mm,
year, we started to date, and that's when I that's when I was like, this is. It was like getting to know her again. It was like
mm,
making, not just jumping right back into it. And I think a lot of where people just jump right back into it and it doesn't work again is because over that time frame that you weren't good to each other, and then maybe where you were separated or you were divorced, you change. So we had to see if we could get back together again. And after the vacation, she was living in a different house. So she went to her house. I went back to my house, but we started to like date. And the kids would come over. And you have to realize, think about the kids too. That you can't just throw the kids back in the mix. Like what are they're not like groceries. You just throw them in the cabinets. All right, guys, we're gonna change this up on you now. So the kids had to get used to me again. And honestly, it was fun. I had fun. We had fun. We brought fun. You had to bring fun back in relationships. So it wasn't just the awfulness that we had gone through that I'd put him through. It was, all right, we're dating again. Let's see if this is going to work. And going out on dates again was a blast. I mean, it was. It felt like something brand new, and it worked out for that next year. And then we, after that year, we moved back in together, and here we are. As this, we're in 2024, and we're a normal middle class Midwestern family, and that white picket fence and everything, and that's what I always. I say that's what but that's what we both grew up with, so that's what we always wanted. And I'm not going to speak for her because she's a very strong. Believe me, she's not a subservient person to anybody, but that is the God honest truth. This is it. She's coaching the volleyball. That's what she's always in. She grew up playing volleyball. I met her. She was a volleyball player at University of Nebraska Omaha. She's a great mother. She's she does everything that I don't say I wanted, but that my mother. That's you do marry somebody that's kind of like your own parents. You do. I remember hearing that, but it is the God honest truth. And me, luckily for me, I'm at a point now where, like I said, the speaking events, I've cut them way down. I maybe will do 5 to 10 a year, where I used to do when you first met me, I was doing 100 easy.
wow.
Signings, book signings, nah, I'll do a few, if we want to, but they're all local. They're all here. I don't travel. I don't even fly anywhere anymore. Flying's too dangerous anyway. So I don't fly. If it's not local, I have the vodka, but me and my best friend, Ben Morgan, we run it, which is awesome. That's the only reason I do it is because I get to work with my best friend. But even there, it's just local stuff. And then I teach. I teach farms, and I have a range 500 meters down my road. So I ain't going anywhere. If when I have to teach, I go teach, and I can come home, and I can come home at lunch, and it's wonderful. This is what I was always hoping for when I got to 35. So I'm 53. When I got to this age, and but it's never been a straight path. And now that we're here, after do this windy road path, it still takes work to continue to keep it going, because it's family, it's marriage, it's kids. It continually takes work. And before you even, even before you hit the record button, what am I bitching? I'm bitching about, man, I got to do all these honeydews today though. So I'm sorry, but I'm glad I get a bitch about that, because now I'm thinking, man, that's what I wanted. Not to bitch about the honeydews. Well, you are, but it's in fun. But it's, man, I gotta clean stuff up today, and that I love that. I have no problem with that. I'd rather do
And there
that than be
is,
down a range.
yeah, there is so much beauty and simplicity too. Um, when we
Correct.
simplify our lives and we put family first, obviously, and everything else sort of comes after that. And I think that's something I certainly try to do as much as I can, is really simplify life, not doing things that are going to put stress on me or take me too far away from, what is important. And I think there are so many extraneous things in all our lives that we could probably
Yeah.
take a look at and really learn to say no. And sometimes that can be the hardest thing, in
Yeah.
just feeling like we're letting people down, when in doing things that we don't really want to be doing, we're not, we're letting ourselves down. And that is a bigger cross to bear.
Yeah. Well, and we're letting our family down. I mean, that is. where it finally clicked in my brain is like, wait, I'm telling these people no, and I'm hurting their feelings. But if I tell them yes, and I have to leave for 2 or 3 days, whose feelings am I hurting? I'm not here for my kids. I'm not here to help around the house. So it's like, wow, like really, am I really hurting their feelings by telling them no? Am I hurting the most important people in my life's feelings by being
Mm,
gone? And
mm,
again, it doesn't happen overnight. It took years for me to finally figure that out. And and I'm with you on the safety thing too. I don't like being gone now because I worry about the safety of my safety of my family, and that's the detriment of deploying and seeing the worst in people is that there's capabilities of terrible things that can happen to people out there because we've seen it. We know that that's a case. Sometimes ignorance is truly bliss when it comes to stuff like that. And I think a lot of veterans that have deployed overseas and have fought wars, or law enforcement that have seen the word homicide, vice, has seen the worst in people. It is hard to be away from our families. At least it is for me, because I'm not there to protect them. And I think that's where a lot of post-traumatic stress comes in with us as well, is because when we're gone, we want to be home because we know that, and we're thinking this could be the day. This is the
mm,
day. This is the day. And I'm not there. Karma. Karma's a bitch. It's just gonna get them. And
mm,
we have to come to terms with that. It took me a while to come to terms with that too. I fought that for a year, where I don't want to leave. I can't, and it would stress me out to go to the airport, just to go on a trip, to fly to Chicago. It's like I need to get home. And I'm sitting there texting on the phone. Are you guys good? You guys good? And it drove my wife crazy. It did. She's like, we're fine. We relax.
mm,
And it did take some adjustment. That was in probably 2020 is when that hit. That was when that stuff hit. And where I didn't want to be away from home because I was always worried that this is the day something bad is going to happen at my house because I'm gone. Because see, when you're overseas, it's like that's the worst thing always happens when you're not there or you're not prepared for it. And that was something mentally and emotionally that I had to figure out. And I think a lot of veterans go through that. I don't
mm,
think I know a lot of GWAT vets go through that worry of, and it's a stressor that either leads them to be homebodies that never leave the house, which don't want to do that either, or when they're gone, it drives them to just hit the bars. It drives them to they got to numb it somehow, or prescribe medication from the VA, which is not good either. I've been down that road. Um, so it is it's that path that you just have to you're going to keep hitting, and I did, at least in my opinion. This is what happened to me. You keep hitting different things that you don't think you're different roadblocks and obstacles, not just the standard. I'm away from home and I miss my family. It's these thoughts creep in your head because you've seen the worst, and you don't want that worst to happen, especially to your children. Um, and I like the worst. We start off the conversation talking about my daughter and her date. Well, that's what's going through my head. The worst things that can happen as a father to their daughter. And that's why it was great to have my wife there saying, "We relax, she's going to be fine." And it's good to have that.
mm,
My wife's like my therapist. It's just good to have that person to calm me down, and that team. That's why I always say have that team, have that good team together. And as veterans, you need that strong woman or man, whatever partner on your side that can say, relax, it's going to be okay. You're worrying too
mm,
much. And being able to say that to you bluntly without thinking they're going to offend you. My friends can't say that to me. Well, very, very close friends can, like Ben Morgan. He can say that, but I can count those on one hand. But my wife can say this, like, dude, just will you relax? And I'm not going to get all bent out of shape. And she's right. And that's been hard, man. That was hard after the fact. Most recently, so what's been most difficult is to get all the bad thoughts that come through my head, because we've seen you, and when I say you and I, and I know you have as well, we've seen the worst people can do to each other. And it's hard to not worry about that, especially when your kids are starting to go out on their own now. They're starting to leave the nest, but you can't protect them forever. So it's what I'm adjusting with now more than anything.
it
Yeah.
is. And that's really what I think it breaks my heart when you see these wars that are happening and how there are just so many people that to wake up another day is such a gift. And
Yes.
how just how the lack of, and I think one thing I really observed overseas is just the lack of control so many parents have
Yeah.
in these conflict areas and not being able to protect their child. And it just makes me so grateful for the fact that I can
Yeah.
protect my child here. And I know that,
Yes.
of course, we have many problems in the US, but I know that my apartment being bombed is not one of them.
Yeah.
And that, Raven can sleep soundly at night. And that just sort of breaks my heart when I see these new wars continue to be perpetuated or to start, because it really robs a childhood. And I hope that my child will understand the world, but she will never have to see or
Yeah.
experience any of that. And that's a beauty of living somewhere like the United States of
Yeah.
America, is that we can sleep soundly at night. And just finally, I know you have school pickup to do. What would be your advice to anyone that was perhaps just starting out their military career,
Yeah.
that may or may not have started their family yet? But what would you say? What would you say to 20-year-old Tanto if you could kind of go back in time?
Um, to be quite honest, I would say be single. I was married at the time. I was divorced prior to Tanya. It is, especially if you're going in the special operations community. It's tough. Now there are some success stories, but they're very rare. So what I would say to a young Tonto is, hey, you can have a girlfriend, but don't get married when you're going in. All right. Because it's a culture shock to both of you and she's a wonderful woman. We're friends. Got nothing bad to say about Stacy. She was wonderful. I'm still friends with her family, but we got married way too early. And then when I got to the Ranger Battalion, it was no way. So that would be my first thing. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it makes it a lot less stressful on the person trying out, which is hard enough as it is, and it also makes it a heck of a lot stressful on that significant other that you're with. Now, if you can't do that, then just I would say meet with people that are in whatever branches of service you're going into that are married, that have made it through a few years, and talk to them, get their advice, ask them the hard questions. And because the more you know and the more educated you are on what you're getting into, and you know this, I mean, this common sense. I'm giving you advice that has stood the test of time. The more you know about what you're getting in before you go in, the easier it is to handle it, because it's mentally draining. Physical stuff we can handle. It's the mental anxiety that's what drives you apart. And then once you're in, if you are single, just just do your thing. God's going to put the right person with you. Go do your thing. Just continue to work, continue to train. If you're going to be a ranger, hang out with the guys, do your thing. When they go out at night, go out. And eventually, like I did with Tanya, I met her at a bar. She spilled a bunch of it wasn't Fireball, but it was what peppermint schnapps at the time. I was at a bar and
Oh,
dancing, and she hit the girl that carried all the shots around. It was at South Padre Island, and she hit her
oh, it's
and knocked
amazing.
her knocked her all over me. And I say this, I go, you fell for me, because I had to take my shirt off because it was just covered, and that was when I was still, a young ranger, but. I said, you just fell in love with me because of my huge chest, didn't you? But it really was like Cupid's arrow. It was like a perfect way to meet. It was like the all that fireball burning my eyes was like Cupid's arrow hit me in the heart. Because I looked and I was mad, and I looked and saw who it was, like, whoa. And we just started dancing. We had been there, that's when we started dating in South Padre Island at a bar. But I said, just
I love that.
don't always go looking. And sometimes you're going to meet that person. And then I've seen my buddies, it didn't happen with me, but where they've met them, and then they met them again down the line somewhere. And it was the timing. It's always timing. It really is. Don't force it. Whenever you force it, it doesn't work out. And that's what I was trying to do when I was divorced from things. I was always trying to force it with something. I was trying to find that person. Be like Harry Potter's wand. It's going to find you. You will find each
Mm,
other. Just be patient, but also know that when it does find you, like I did, don't dismiss it. Find it, keep it, cultivate it, and then work on it, and don't jump in too quick. We dated for a lot of years, before we got married the first time. And then, like I said, we talked about before we got married the second time, we still dated for another year and work on it, find the nuances. And then I would tell the young time, there's going to be things that rub you the wrong way. There's going to be things that rub her the wrong way about you, but that's part of being married is you accept some of those little nuances that and being a good solid marriage, you accept those nuances that rub you the wrong way. And to be quite honest, a lot of those little things that rub me the wrong way, I adore now. I really I hated them then. I'm like, I like those now. I like that she always has to have the fan on in the room, bother the crap out of me. But I love it now. Whenever we're sleeping, I the volleyball, it's like, gosh, it's always volleyball. Now, if she's not working on volleyball, I think something's wrong. It's just little things that you grow together and then but also do let both you all need your own space too. You both have to have your own thing. Volleyball is a perfect example. She has to have volleyball or she's not happy. She's not a
Mm,
housewife. That's just now. Granted, yeah, she cooks, she cleans just like me. I do the same thing. I do the laundry as well. Um, but find those things that make you compatible and then the things that don't. That's why dating for a year is great or dating longer because eventually those little things that may annoy you, you're gonna start looking for them. But if they still annoy you after a couple of years, 2, 3 years, not saying you have to move up, but maybe this is not the right fit, and you have to be willing to walk away, and that's hard. Getting your heart
mm.
broken is not fun. It isn't. My heart's been broken a lot, um, but it was the right thing because it led me to where I need to be now. And right now I'm in. I literally I'm in utopia right now. I couldn't
My
ask to be in a
gosh.
better spot. Yeah,
I love that. I love that for you. I love to see that you are in such an amazing place and that you are so happy with your
yeah.
life and your family because I know that it hasn't certainly hasn't been that
Well,
way.
yes,
And
ma'am.
they, yeah, you absolutely deserve all that happiness. Someday I would love to hear Tanya's perspective in all of this.
She might say, this dude is just an asshole. I'm always trying to get him out of. No, she would.
Yeah, and
I
her
wish I could
journey.
get her on
Yeah.
interviews. She
I'd
hates
love to
social
hear
media and
her
all that.
journey. You know
Yeah,
what? And I also love that she is not trying to put herself out there in, and that
yeah,
she has her own life that is very removed from all of that. And I think that's also
yes.
something very special. And something I read this morning was that, which stuck with me, was the greatest gift we can give our children is to be kind to their mother. So yeah, that's
Yeah, dude, you're
definitely a
spot
father's
on.
role.
It is a spot on. Because that's what they're looking at. I think of that all the time whenever I start to raise my voice or something irritates me because I did it a lot, or get angry and yell and the kids I would look and they would be looking at me and how am I treating their mother. And that's how I looked at my father before he passed away too. I look back now, I see that too. Like when they were fighting, really, who was I looking at? Just looking at my father and how he was reacting. And I'd be honest, I passed more judgment on my father than I did my mother. And I think I think it should be that way, unless the mother's a drug using, abusing alcoholic. Okay, but for the father has to be responsible because that's how the kids are going to grow up being as well. And it just took me a while to figure that out. I love that saying. I got to use that. I'm going to use that on my show because you're spot on. I mean, it is. Mother is the word for God on the lips of hearts of all children. I heard that on a movie. I can't remember which one, but it's the God on his truth. Mother is the most important in a child's life. The mother is, and you saying that at the beginning of the show is spot on. The mother needs to be around, and my kids wouldn't be as rock solid if it wasn't for Tanya. If it was me raising them, forget about it. They'd be off. But you are so spot on. The father's there as well, but the mother really has that imprint on the children that just really decide which route they're going to go. I hate to put that on you, mothers, but you're more important. You are than us fathers. But fathers important too, but the mothers are. You are spot on.
Yeah. I think so. Well, I've loved this conversation so much. I could talk to you for hours. I've loved
I
catching up.
know.
Let's
Me
do it
too.
again. I will put links to your Insta and the Battle Line podcast, which everybody should check
Please.
out if you aren't already. And you need to go to school pickup. So I'm going to get off the call now. So you're not late.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me, Holly. You're awesome. I love you. And whatever you need from me in the future, you just, all you have to do is ask. I got your back.
Thank you so much. Take care, Kris.
See you, Holly. Bye bye.
Bye.